Hello everyone and welcome to this video, which is in our engine opening series. I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler and we are going to be taking a look, I think in the next few videos, at some lines and variations in the D takes C5 variation against the Queen's Gambit accepted. So I got triggered to look at this by the game Goryachkina-Koneru in the last round of the Delhi Women's Grand Prix. And yeah, I'd looked at this a very long time ago when I was playing the QJ as a professional player. That's pre-computer age, pre-2000. And I haven't really looked at it that much since. So I thought it would be very interesting to have a look. Now, this specific video isn't actually looking at opening move orders and ideas, because I got a little bit distracted. Obviously, you know, I've been running a lot of games between my engines, and in this sort of opening you do get a lot of draws, but sort of hidden amongst all of those draws was a win by Stockfish against Komodo Dragon. And well, when I looked a little bit deeper, I thought this was simply an absolutely amazing endgame from Stockfish, and so I thought I'd share it with you. What I do think is that this endgame that you're going to see, I mean, playing this opening properly from the white side, you know, trying to get a small ending advantage, the only way to be able to do that is to know, well, which endings can you transpose to, which ones are good for you, how do you win them? And well, this video is just about that. So if you're interested in this line as white, definitely stay watching, because this is going to be super instructive. If you just like great endgames, keep on watching, because that's also what you're going to see. So I'm going to just take you to the position after move 24, Black's 24th move. And Black has just played the move King F8, protecting the pawn on G7, preparing to move the knight away. Yeah, this is a very typical line for a very typical position for the Queen's Gambit accepted. On the Queen side, what's happened? Well, White swapped off his A pawn for the for Black's B pawn, and this has left a queenside structure that's slightly favourable to White. This A6 pawn is easier to attack than the B2 pawn. We've got an open file to attack it. We've got a bishop attacking it as well. Also in the endgame, that also holds true. Very, very typical scenario in the Queen's Gambit accepted. Now, lots of exchanges have taken place to sort of neutralise any White initiative, and White has picked up the two bishops along the way. So, you know, in general, you definitely say that White's got a slight advantage here. Two bishops, weak pawn, and what can you say? Plenty of stuff to do. I mean, what I was expecting here in this position was some play with the two bishops, probably trying to work out, extract some extra invasion channels on the king side by attacking those king side pawns, and then maybe this king is going to aim over here, or maybe it's going to aim over here. You know, with through some new invasion channels that White has created, you're going to try and stretch Black. It's the classic thing. You know, it's that's the classic scenario. However, what I saw was that Stockfish in this position against Komodo Dragon, it was 30-minute plus 3-second time control. Not particularly long, it must be said. Also not on my fastest machine, and also not the latest version of Stockfish either. From this one was from 9th of February, I think. But this move was played. Bishop takes f6, G takes f6, and then b4. And this really surprised me. I mean, you know, obviously this idea of transforming an advantage, the two bishops, into a damaged Black kingside structure was in the position. But, you know, in general, you had the feeling, well, you know, I think you'll always manage to do something like this. Shouldn't you be playing around with the two bishops first? That was the first thing that, you know, surprised me. The other thing that surprised me was Stockfish's evaluation, which ended up being at 2.86 for White. So Stockfish is saying this is completely winning for White now. And yeah, this really confused me, because you know, I had it more in the annoying for Black range. why did I think this is annoying for black? Well, two things. First of all, this pawn on a6 is a weakness, and it's got to be defended by the bishop on c8. So obviously, that's going to be a long-term weakness. Black's light-squared bishop is always going to be a tiny bit more passive than white's. Secondly, it's really true that that black does have two weaknesses, and it's always the principle of two weaknesses in an ending, that you need that in order to win a position. And we've got the pawn on a6, and we've also got the the weakened king side. But I suppose my feeling about it was that yes, those weaknesses are there, those two weaknesses are there, but actually black can defend it all very, very easily. I mean, this bishop can defend the a6 pawn from b7, which is a great square. It's along the long diagonal, doing some stuff there. And there's not any sort of stuff like zugzwang, because the bishop can go to c8 and then it can go back to b7. So in terms of running black short of moves, doesn't really feel like it. On the king side, white can try and bring his king up. If any of you know your classics, and the classic king and pawn ending, Kohn against Rubinstein from 1909, will come to mind, because that was a king and pawn ending, just lose those bishops, and black in this position managed to get a king right up to it would be this h6 square, and won a famous game. But obviously black can defend quite easily, put a king on g7, probably a pawn on h6. And, obviously one great idea for white would be to get the king over, either to invade via c5, b6, or get it to the a5 square. But, the black king's on f8, the white king's on g1. White doesn't have any big advantage in dynamics or mobility. Black can always stop white from doing anything. And, again, one typical idea would be, okay, we'll bring the king to the king side, tie the black king down, and then move the king over. But again, you don't really see that happening in this position. I mean, the white king sprints over, the black king will sprint over to the king side. So, okay, and I think also, when you're talking about the your feelings about the position, I mean, it's very much influenced by the how the game has gone beforehand, and also whether the position looks normal or not. And well, the game beforehand, you haven't seen it, but I have, of course, and that sort of seems vaguely normal. I mean, white's picked up a few little pluses there, but it's nothing crazy. And also, this scenario of a weak pawn on a6 for black and the Queen's Gambit accepted, very normal. Letting your f-pawns be doubled in order to allow exchanges in the Queen's Gambits in general, they're not just the Queen's Gambit accepted, very normal. So, everything feels normal. How can this possibly be a win? Well, what Stockfish understood, as no other, Stockfish was really the absolute best by far in executing this plan perfectly. All the other engines tended to get a bit distracted at times, and Stockfish managed to make a lot of draws as black against them. But Stockfish was utterly remorseless with white. What Stockfish understood, in actual fact, is that what we need to do is to exchange off this e-pawn for this f-pawn. Now, once that happens, white is completely capable of creating a pass pawn on the king side. And with a pass pawn on the king side, well, white is obviously going to be able to hold the black king, distract the black king, and then invade with a king on the queen side. And it's all to do with pawn structure appreciation, and it's just incredible that Stockfish can do this. Also, not necessarily at such a a high depth and high nodes or everything. I mean, this was Stockfish running on some good hardware, but not my strongest. So very, very impressive. Now let's have a little look and see how that all fits together. So the first thing, the engines really feel that if white gets in g4 now, then white's really just going to have everything that he wants. So the engines really want to play the move f5 just to make sure that white just can't play g4 and pin down this king side. And now white's next move is f3. Very important, this move, f3. It's got to be f3, it mustn't be f4, and we'll have a look why later. king g7, king f2. And what is white aiming for? Where is this king going to? I mean, if you want to use this as a training exercise, then, well, try and understand, you know, what is white's plan. For me, it's just totally not obvious at all. So you can just pause the video and have a look. In actual fact, what white is aiming to do here, this white king is going to aim to f4 with the idea of supporting e4 to exchange off the pawns. That is Stockfish's idea, and it's absolutely amazing how it works. So let's have a look just at not the best defense here, but it's a move that the engines were playing a lot against Stockfish. Bishop b7, king g3, king g6, king f4, king f6, bishop c4, h6, bishop f1, bishop c8. Stockfish plays around a little bit. Essentially what it decides is that it wants to have its bishop on it wants to have this position, but with its bishop on c4. That's the very best it can get. So it plays around a little bit, bishop c4, and now black plays the move bishop c8. Why does black play the move bishop c8? Well, you see, black doesn't really want to do a number of things. Black doesn't want to play the pawn to h5. We'll see why after. Black doesn't want to move the king away from e7, concede ground to the white king. Black can't move the bishop along this diagonal because the a6 pawn hangs, and black doesn't want to weaken its kingside structure with e5. So bishop c8 is what black plays. And now white plays this move e4. Again, there's plenty of ideas here for black, but the most obvious and the one that we're going to have a look at first of all is just to take on e4. King takes e4. And now what? Well, now, you know, a number of things here start getting, you know, very, very interesting. If you just let white do what white wants, white is going to play f4, g4, h4, and go g5. And if you take on g5, I'm going to take back with the f pawn, and I'm going to create my passed h pawn. And, you know, the king will have to retreat, and then the white king can come in. So that is what's happening if black does nothing at all. So I think you'll understand that black has to do something here. But what can he do? One idea that I was looking at was to play the move e5, and I was quite shocked in actual fact that white can just play f4. So by the way, what you're going to see an awful lot is that it's not quite in this position, but there's often ideas where black can play bishop b7 and then bishop g2 and take the pawn. But in general, when white takes this pawn on a6, this is ending up into a winning bishop ending. I mean, here you could also play bishop d5, so that's not really the case. But in general, these sort of endings where black swaps the a6 pawn for a g2 pawn, you're going to see lots of possibilities like that. It's tending to be good for white. So bishop f5, check, king e3, takes, bishop c8, king e4. This was a game between Stockfish and Dragon, I think. Also Dragon and Stockfish as well. And it's just a very difficult position for black. Why is it difficult? Actually because of this f7 pawn. White is just aiming to bring the king over to b6, and black can't stop this with his king unless he gives up the f7 pawn. If you give up the f7 pawn, it means white's got 2 against 1 on the king side, and white will be able to create a passed pawn and distract the black king, win the a pawn, and Bob's your uncle. Let's have a look at just one game in there, just to see how it went. Yeah, bishop b7. This is Stockfish against Dragon. We'll show you. Just blocking like that. The king's moving over. Bishop f5. Bishop c4. We pin him again. King on c5. g3. Not giving anything away. King d6 and king c7. A nice little sidestep way of doing that. Just giving black the least counterplay. And here we are. Bishop d3, b5, b6, bishop b5 takes, and bishop c6, and it's finished. Child's play, in actual fact. Yeah, I mean, just from a that's always the thing about these endings, you know, is that or certainly it's true for me. I don't know whether it's true for you, but you know, just intuitively, I look at the reduced material and all that, and you know, my mind's saying, oh, draw. You know, I always need to make a little bit of an effort to look at the position in order to understand, and I just wish I could reprogram myself somehow to understand that better. But yeah, this move e5 is not really helping. Any move essentially that exposes this diagonal allows this bishop to attack the pawn on f7 and restrict this king on f6 is always going to be good. So king e7 is the main line, and now king e5, bishop b7 and bishop e2. So bishop e2 protects f3. We're just getting ready now to advance our pawns. Yeah, we've got a couple of things here. I'm going to show you a couple of ideas. First of all, we get Dragon playing very sharply, but very well. G4, f4, bishop b7, h4, and g5. And then once again, the idea here is that we're just going to create an outside pass pawn here. hg5, we go fg5. hg5, king e7 is not so clear because black's got this move e5 to exchange everything off. So we take with the f pawn, very important. And now after e5 check, yeah, there's loads of possibilities. Almost everything wins here. I tried defending this against Leela 1 node and Leela was beating me, so that's pretty clear. How Dragon did it was typically sharp. We got this and this, king d3, and this was how it went with Stockfish. King c3, this little sidestep of the king, getting out of checks on this diagonal, and also attacking this pawn on a6 as well. And this is all gone. h6 is possible too. Let's have a look at h6. This is Stockfish against Dragon. Bishop g6, bishop h5, and then g6 and h7, and bishop e2, and we are there and winning. So I think that's the first glimpse that you've got of this plan that White has got. Simply against this pawn structure, it is just possible to create an outside pass pawn. Now Stockfish took the long way. King g4, g3, f4, king h5, king h4, king h5, g4, bishop c8, bishop d3, bishop b7, and then brought the king all the way back. It does remind me of this classic Russian technique somehow, where you're supposed to try all possibilities first before going for the decisive one, and that's pretty much what Stockfish does. I don't know whether that was programmed in or not, but Stockfish doesn't care. It'll always find the right way in the end. And this is now a very typical position. This is Stockfish against Leela, amongst others. Bishop e4 and g5. And I was sort of, when I saw this position, I was thinking, is this really a win? Is it really a win, this one? And then I suddenly spotted this plan, and funnily enough, I mean, I found that it took me a few minutes to work it out what I needed to do. Funnily enough, Leela as White considers this to be, and as Black considers this to be drawn. So really a very low evaluation for Leela, and somehow Leela's never spotting this idea of playing g6 until very, very late. When it's playing with Black, it's getting amazed. It was losing against Ethereal like that. When it's White, it's sort of stumbling into the win eventually, but always starting from a very low evaluation. It's really quite strange. I will say for the record that my Leela is not particularly up to date. I'm on 29.0. Binary, and not an amazingly new net, so possibly a lot of things have changed since this version, but still, it's still a little bit surprising. An engine of Leela strength struggles with this. But what do? You go king g3, you go king h4, you go king h5, and then you go g6. Why do you do this? The idea is to stop Black from meeting g6 with king h6, which would be irritating. And now you cross over here. Bishop c2. We're going to go for a bit of Zugzwang here. As always, the engine takes quite a long time to do it. Here we go. But this is the position that we want. We want the bishop on d3 attacking the pawn on a6, and we want the black bishop to be on c8, because now the black bishop can't cover everything. It can't cover the white king coming over to attack the e5 pawn, and also cover the a6 pawn. So I mean, Leela here was giving up the b pawn, but that's obviously completely winning. And I had a game against Leela 1 node with here. I went king f5, and after e4, did I take on e4? I think that was working, wasn't it? Just having a look. Yeah, that was working, I think. Takes. Just trying to remember what I was doing, but there we are. And we're always in time there. So this, pardon me, is a very important endgame, and I mean basically demonstrates why this is a win. It's if this position with just a weak black a pawn really, and a passed white pawn on the king side that white can just forcibly create. If that is winning, then obviously the whole position must be winning. Very impressive there from Stockfish. So that is that's basically the main line there. I can show you a couple of other things. I'll just show you maybe one more, a couple more funny things really. If you go e5 check here and f takes e4. Oops, good lord, sorry. F takes e4, king e4 is actually leading eventually after f4 into pretty much the position we saw already. So that one we've seen already. If you do something like f4 check, I just go king d3, and I'm just heading over for the a6 pawn. And the fact that the king's having to protect the f7 pawn makes this rather difficult. Black's actually going to have to lose that f7 pawn, and that's going to give me more opportunities to create a pass pawn on the king side. So that's not particularly good. The other thing that's quite funny is this move h5. You sort of say, yeah, not great, putting a pawn on a light square, but still, how bad can it be? Well, the nice thing is that then white just changes its plan completely and goes back and plays this move f4 check, and after king f6 we just go bishop e2, and we're going to go king h4, and we're going to grab this pawn. That's what we're going to do. So just very nice play there. Very flexible. What you always expect from the engine switching like that. Now, one of the key points of good defense is you don't always know that you're going to be able to draw a position, but you can try and put as many obstacles in white's path. And actually, this was what Stockfish was doing when it was playing black. So it was playing the move king f6, and after king g3, it was playing king g5, blocking the king's path to f4, which none of the other engines particularly understand. But this was very, very interesting here, because this was where Ethereal and Dragon and Leela, they were all getting distracted and playing this move f4. King g6, and now bishop d3, bishop b7 here, king g7, and then g4. And this was a position that all of those engines, Stockfish, Leela, and Dragon, Leela, and Ethereal, they were all assessing this as clearly winning for white. Dragon plus 1.86 or something. But yeah, I mean, actually, Stockfish is completely right. This is a complete draw. Presumably, there's some sort of subtle move around mobility thing that the engines thought they had. And that they don't have, but I certainly don't see it. But simply the king just stays reasonably close to the h pawn, and the bishop just defends e6 and a6 from c8. That's easy. And the black king can just go king g7 to h7. You just cannot run the black pieces short of time. So, it was, 120, 140 moves. I was playing a lot of these games at very long time control, so just to be sure that, that the endings were drawn. So that was quite interesting in actual fact. However, what Stockfish does here is bring out the archetypal endgame ploy, which is Zugzwang. Sergei Tivyakov, very strong Russian player, now living in Holland. He once made the remark that there's no endgames without Zugzwang, and that is absolutely correct. I mean, actually what white needs to do is just lose a move here. So you play bishop f1, bishop b7, and bishop d3. And what is the point here? Well, obviously, if your king retreats, my king advances, and we're back into the same positions. h5, I think you can guess, we'll go f4 and then pick it up. If black goes bishop c8 here, what do we do? Well, this was one of my games against Leela OneNode. I just play f4 check, king f6, and e4. And hey presto, I've managed to achieve e4. and well, the rest of the game will proceed along pretty standard lines, really. Yeah, giving yourself double pawns on f5 is also not a very clever idea. So that's really the whole thing. Actually, black can stay in the way, but you can just use Zugzwang there to wait black out, lose a move, make black weaken his position, and then exchange off the pawns. The point is, of course, though, is that it's a subtle Zugzwang in order to just achieve a positional aim that you could be forgiven for not understanding that it's winning. So that's the the huge difficulty. But yeah, that is absolutely the best move there for white. So yeah, this is basically all that I want to show you about this endgame. It seems that this endgame is winning. Simply that white can swap off this e3 pawn for this f5 pawn, and after that it's impossible to stop white from from creating a pass pawn on the king side to distract the black king when the white king can move to the queen side. And as I said, yeah, I mean, I certainly had not understood this at all when I started, and yeah, I mean, it just absolutely amazed me. And I kept on thinking, oh well, how about this? And playing some, trying out some games, and then the engines would come back. There's another very interesting position here that I reached here. So we've done all our subtle stuff. I'll just show you how we got there. f3, king g7, king f2, bishop b7, king g3, king g6, king f4, bishop c4, h6. We do our little subtle shimmies. There we are. And now if black plays the move e5 check, chase that white king away. So we go king g3, king back to e7, king h4, king f8, and now this move f4. Takes, and this was an interesting one actually. You sort of say, okay, well, I've given black some double pawns there on f7 and f5. How do I possibly win this? And well, it's the answer is simplicity itself. Obviously, black has to play f6 in order to be able to bring his king to the center and block the white king getting through. So that's great already. g3, king d6, and now this move bishop d5. Very, very nice. I've never quite seen something like that, because you've got to go bishop d7, more or less your only move. You can't concede with a king. Then I go bishop b7, and you think, haha, I go bishop b5. And then you go bishop c8, and you're attacking f5 in this way, and you can't actually protect that. And then I'm just going to, well, win a pawn, and then go bishop d3, and threaten the exchange of bishops, or winning the a6 pawn. I can create a pass pawn on the king side. It's just completely winning. So many beautiful things like that in the position, it just made me think. I was just obviously I saw the earlier part of the game, but this game actually arose from this position, and black played the move rook c8, which is by far the most natural move. Everything else looks a little bit ugly, but challenge the rooks, offer the exchange of rooks there. But actually, it just looks like it's a decisive mistake. After here, bishop takes f6, gf, b4, white's completely winning. There's maybe just one final funny thing to share. It's that this bishop takes f6. This was Leela's third policy move. So at one node, it was its third move in the list. But I mean, almost instantly, somehow, bishop takes f6, followed by b4, goes to the top of Leela's move choice. So Leela might not always know perfectly how to finish it off, but it certainly knows that this is winning. Funny enough, Stockfish often took quite a long time to find the bishop f6 line. Presumably it was seeing a lot of very deep draws, and then only a little bit later with more depth overcoming that resistance. But just in one game against Leela, in actual fact, Stockfish thought for 5 minutes 51 seconds and played the move g3, so didn't play bishop f6. I mean, almost always it did play bishop f6, but it didn't there. The really funny thing was that even this, it managed to win against Leela, which was, it didn't find the right move, but still, it made a lot of this. And yeah, I mean, how did this happen? I mean, actually, it was simplicity itself somehow. Yeah, white just moved the king all the way up to the queen side here. Clearly, black very nervous about going too far away with a king, with moves like bishop f8 taking place. And well, actually, yeah, Stockfish's king just went all the way to a5 and grabbed the a6 pawn. Felt a little bit like magic to me somehow, but yeah, at some stage Leela decided that it had to break out, and then Stockfish just every time just picks up the pieces there. Bishop b7, yeah, very hard now for black to hold all the pawns. Also got some weaknesses on the other side. King b6, bishop a6, and well, Stockfish had no problems winning this ending. This b pawn is an absolute monster, and we've even got the right coloured bishop for this rook's pawn if anything like that was to happen. So there we are. Hope you enjoyed that endgame. I'm gonna be looking at more positions in the 7d takes c5 queen's gambit accepted. I hope it's interesting, but I hope that this position really gives you a good idea of what white might be able to aim for, and knowing that this type of position is a win for white is absolutely an amazing skill, and it's something that can really help you when you're playing this line with white. So there we are. Hope you enjoyed that. If you enjoyed it, why not give a like, subscribe to the channel, take a look at my new book, The Silicon Road to Chess Improvement. Also a Chessable course, which is really cool actually as well. And well, otherwise, hope this is interesting, and hope to see you more frequently on this channel. Thanks for watching.